Being a Black K-pop stan is a constant negotiation between love for the music and the reality of disrespect. It's exhausting to want to enjoy an industry that actively profits from Black culture while reminding Black fans they don't belong. K-pop is a global phenomenon, but Black fans often feel excluded, tokenized, or outright disrespected. From the start of my K-pop journey, I noticed how anti-Blackness permeates the industry. K-pop is heavily influenced by African American culture, yet rarely acknowledges its roots or gives credit where it's due. Whether this is inspiration, appreciation, appropriation, or theft, often depends on execution. But for Black fans, it's not just the music. It's the constant need to defend our place in a fandom that we've contributed to, only to be met with hostility, gatekeeping, or outright racism. What inspired this video was a TikTok I received, and one of the girls said, "I just don't want to pull a Giselle." And for the first time in my entire journey as a K-pop fan, I felt seen. The creator was voicing something I've struggled with for years. The uneasy feeling that comes after an idol does something problematic, especially anti-Black behavior. Here's the cycle we all know too well. An idol does something offensive, there's backlash, the company releases a PR apology, and the fandom collectively decides to move on. And yet for me, it's never been that simple. I've always felt stuck, like I couldn't just move on even months or years later. It's not about holding on to anger or actively hating them. It's about not being able to enjoy their content the same way. For example, I stanned a group for 3 years. I adored their music, their content, and their personalities. But when one of the members engaged in cultural appropriation, it completely shifted how I saw them. And the heartbreaking part? The member involved was one of the funniest and most charismatic in the group. I tried to move on, but every time I watched their content, that incident lingered in the back of my mind. Slowly but surely, I found myself drifting away, not out of spite, but because I couldn't reconcile the joy I once felt with what had happened. When I saw that TikTok, it was like someone put words to an experience I thought was mine alone. It made me realize that I wasn't weird or overreacting for setting boundaries with groups or idols who've engaged in anti-Black behavior. And that's what inspired this video, to share my story, to explore these feelings, and to let other Black K-pop fans know, you're not alone. The foundation of K-pop and Black culture. K-pop's sound, fashion, and choreography are deeply rooted in African American culture. From hip-hop beats to R&B melodies, the influence is undeniable. But here's the double standard. While K-pop borrows heavily from Black culture, it often fails to credit or respect its origins. I didn't fully understand concepts like cultural appropriation or the history of the N-word when I first entered the K-pop world. Growing up in South Africa, these weren't part of my cultural context. It was through K-pop that I learned what these terms meant, often painfully, through the actions of idols I admired. For the longest time, I stayed silent when idols appropriated Black culture or used racial slurs. Even though I am Black, I felt like it wasn't my place to speak up. Over time, though, I realized how much my own identity as a Black African shaped my perspective. Every conversation about anti-Blackness in K-pop felt like a reminder of who I am at my core. The Black K-pop fan experience. Like anyone else, Black fans just want to enjoy K-pop, but we're reminded repeatedly that we are not allowed to enjoy it. Comments like, "He would never date a Black girl," or, "But they wouldn't like your kind," are all too common. These microaggressions come from international fans, and the infantilization of idols also feeds into this dynamic. Fans constantly excuse anti-Black behavior with statements like, "They're from Korea, they don't know any better." The implication is that ignorance of racism is acceptable, even though K-pop is a global industry that thrives on Black cultural elements. If it isn't non-Black stans gatekeeping, it's other Black people questioning your Blackness or antagonizing you. I've been asked things like, "Why do you like those Chinese people?" Or, "You know they're racist, right?" The irony is that no matter what I do, there's someone trying to diminish my identity. If it's not outright racism or microaggressions from non-black stans, it's the judgment and side-eyes from other black people for enjoying something they've written off. Do you know the feeling of having to check if they've ever engaged in anti-black behavior before I can stan? It's a constant vigilance that comes with being a black fan. The truth is, if I got rid of everything in my life that had an anti-black element, I wouldn't be alive. I'm literally from South Africa, and even here, I'm surrounded by systems and people who hate me. Enjoying K-pop isn't a betrayal of my blackness. It's finding joy in an imperfect world. What makes it worse is when black K-pop fans defend their favorite group's racist behavior or terrorize other black stans for approval from non-black fans. This form of internalized anti-blackness is heartbreaking. Instead of solidarity, some black fans end up weaponized against their own community, perpetuating the same harm they've experienced. Identity and perspective. My identity as a K-pop fan is shaped by 3 distinct parts of myself. I am black. Above all else, my blackness defines how I navigate K-pop. It's the identity that shapes 95% of my interactions with the community and the industry. At the end of the day, when someone wants to insult me, it's my blackness they'll attack. I am African. As an African, we are overlooked by the industry, and having this need for the K-pop industry to see and appreciate us as valued customers. Also, our perspective on cultural appropriation in K-pop sometimes differs from African Americans. I am South African. I know if a K-pop group were to come to Africa, they will likely come to South Africa. And there's an unspoken promise among us African stans to support them, no matter who it is. But I've had to break that promise. I can't financially support a group that comes to South Africa if they've engaged in anti-black behavior. For me, it's not just about showing love to K-pop in Africa. It's about staying true to my values. Cultural exchange and appropriation. Take without giving. K-pop is heavily influenced by African American culture, from music styles to fashion to choreography. Yet, black fans often feel disrespected or excluded. Idols adopt black hairstyles, blaccents, and hip-hop aesthetics, but only when it suits their image. When braids and durags are worn to signal toughness or edginess, it reinforces stereotypes. Is that how they see black people? What complicates this further is the divide between African and African American K-pop stans. As a South African, I've seen African fans mock African Americans for feeling offended by cultural appropriation, claiming, "I'm black and I am not offended. You guys are sensitive." Non-black fans eagerly seize these moments to invalidate African Americans' feelings, weaponizing the divide. See? Africans don't care, so why should you? This difference comes down to how culture is experienced. In many parts of Africa, we're used to sharing our culture with non-black people. Tourists come every year to braid their hair and dance to African music in the streets while we judge them silently. It's not the use of our culture that bothers us. It's the portrayal. When others take from black culture, they often mimic stereotypes, acting like they're cool, dangerous, ghetto, or gangsters. For them, it's a costume. For us, it's a reality that fuels discrimination. That has real-life impact. It used to be easier to accept cultural exchange, but with every incident of appropriation, I've become more hesitant. Opportunities for growth and accountability. Keep K-pop Korean, the KKK. For an industries was copying TLC, black hairstyles, even blackface. They didn't just want to take from us, they wanted to be us. K-pop is popular music with Korean lyrics. The K-pop industry takes whatever genre is currently trending and then just does lyrics in Korean. The reluctance to embrace diversity while demanding global recognition is funny to me. If K-pop wants to be shown more respect on the global stage, it needs to take responsibility that comes with its diverse fanbase. Groups like Only One Of give me hope. They censored the N-word in a cover of Savage, which, while the bare minimum, showed an awareness of their global audience. Certain groups naturally attract more Black stans because they feel safer. I started standing ATEEZ after hearing from Black fans that they felt respected and welcomed. By contrast, I love ENHYPEN's music, but the fandom's anti-Blackness keeps me from fully engaging. It's a reminder that going where you're loved is crucial for survival in this space. Why we stay. Despite everything, many Black fans stay because of the music, the artistry, and the connection they feel with certain groups. Representation matters, even in the smallest ways. When idols or groups show that they care, whether through avoiding harmful behaviors or engaging with fans respectfully, it makes a difference. Throughout my years of being a stan, choose to avoid fandom spaces for peace and only engaged with other Black stans. I believe in going where I am loved, and I prioritize my mental health over forcing myself into spaces that don't value me. Being a Black K-pop fan means constantly balancing love for the art with the pain of exclusion. It's not easy, and it's often isolating. K-pop has the power to bring people together, but only if it respects the diversity of its global audience. If you're a Black K-pop fan, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. How do you navigate this complicated space? And if you're an ally, how can you help make K-pop more inclusive? Let's keep the conversation going. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content about K-pop, identity,